Story 1. So, here's a quick reminder that politics and values are often different concepts. If you and I both want people to be healthy and educated but disagree about the best way to achieve those goals, we hold different political beliefs. That's something we can navigate. However, if you and I disagree about what defines a person or whether everyone deserves the same rights, then we differ in our values, which is a very different matter. Story 2. I stopped hanging out with a guy after he joined the Ku Klux Klan. Does being a racist person count as political beliefs? Story 3. Yes, I will not maintain a relationship with anyone who commits, condones, or excuses sexual assault or rape. Story 4. I lost my stepbrother to the MAGA movement. He reached a point where we couldn't discuss anything without him bringing up Trump. The last straw was when he refused to attend our grandmother's wake because the funeral home had a mask policy. Story 5. I ran into an old friend a few years ago and was genuinely excited to see him. He was one of the smartest and most thoughtful people I knew. During dinner and drinks, he began discussing various conspiracy theories and insisted that I needed to do my own research because the truth is right in front of us. It was unusual and not the person I had been friends with since we were teenagers. I wished him well when we left and haven't spoken to him since. Story 6. I used to volunteer at church events as a non-believer because I enjoy doing charity work. When they started weeping for joy when Trump won, as if he was the second coming of Christ and proclaiming, "God answered our prayers," I realize there are plenty of charity opportunities outside the church where I don't have to deal with this cringeworthy hypocrisy. They are probably discussing me and a few others who left with some sappy, weepy, false smiles, suggesting the false ones have left our flock. But honestly, at this point, I don't care. Story 7. Of course, I banned a cousin from Thanksgiving dinner. I am not going to have a racist in my home. They always claim they are not racist because they support Trump. However, my nephew took a picture of this person at a park wearing a "The White House is for Whites" t-shirt. Story 8. Homie gradually became an insufferable bigot and could no longer hide behind the plausible deniability of edgy, ironic humor. Story 9. I stopped talking to my immediate family because they vote against my human rights and are racist toward my husband. It is not a debate. Story 10. I have been spending time with friends in the United States lately, where the situation seems to be particularly concerning. On my end, it is mostly focused on China, as my relatives are in Hong Kong and I am in Canada. Story 11. During Trump's first run for president in 2016, in the middle of the grab them by the pussy debacle, I posted on Facebook that if anyone still supported Trump after that, they could delete me. By the next morning, 20 people had deleted me. I'm not sad they did. I'm sad I was friends with that many people who were okay with it. Story 12. I think it is important to recognize that for many of us, it is not just political beliefs. For me, the political is personal, and my morals guide my politics and vice versa. I have not had to end any close relationships, but I did stop talking to my neighbors when they put up a sign in support of a certain candidate during the last election after I saw them loudly criticizing a liberal candidate who was going door to door. We had never been close but had been friendly in passing, but those incidents made it clear that we are fundamentally opposed on matters that are non-negotiable to me. Story 13. Sure. Just from people I hadn't seen in a while who changed, since in general they aren't going to be close friends before I know at least something about their basic morals and how they view other people. I had a close high school friend who revealed some serious racism after a few conversations getting to know him again. A friend I worked with became radicalized with conspiracy theories and couldn't be talked out of it. I find the word just odd because it implies this is a minor factor. Obviously, there can be political differences that are minor, and people can reasonably disagree about those while being friends. However, there are political differences that should be deal breakers for any moral person. Story 14. I've lost a couple of friends over our disagreement about what is happening in Israel. I am shocked at their inability to see more than one side of the situation. Story 15. I stopped sleeping with a guy because he voted for Jill Stein in 2016, but we weren't really close. We liked each other enough to hook up, but never enough to be in a real relationship. Story 16. My father, a large and outspoken individual, is more afraid of minorities than anyone I know. Yet, he relies on welfare and is unable to work, depending on the state of Arkansas for everything, bringing in what little sustenance he has. I sometimes wonder how I will react when he is calling for help during a crisis that threatens to take away all his support. Story 17. Yes, most of my previous friends and family joined the MAGA cult. I guess I didn't realize that red, yellow, black, and white weren't precious in their sight. Story 18. I've never lost someone over political views. I've lost people who turned out to be pretty racist, and I don't communicate with them anymore. I unfriended or unfollowed them on social media. However, racism isn't a political view to me even if they believe otherwise. Story 19. I am Canadian, and most of my family lives in the United States. They are not even affiliated with the MAGA movement, but they seem indifferent to the idea of the United States as the 51st state. I am disappointed in them. I would refuse to travel to the United States for anything short of a wedding or funeral right now. That is going to hurt the relationships for sure. To be fair, I have had two family visits in my hometown in 15 years, not counting my parents. They would be welcome to visit me. It is incredibly sad because I am making a decision that I know will distance me from the people I have known and loved the longest. But it still feels right to me. Story 20. My only sibling and I do not speak because I completely disapprove of Trump and everything he represents. It was her decision, and I am perfectly fine with it. Story 21. I had a close personal relationship with my country until it became chaotic and elected a criminal as president. Story 22. Friends found out who I voted for this year and told me I deserve to have my baby taken away. They wished death upon me and said they hope my 4-month-old daughter and I get harmed. Story 23. Yes, because to me, politics are aligned with morals. How you vote determines what you believe is best for society, and I cannot be friends with someone who thinks society would be better off if other people lost their rights. Story 24. I am in Minneapolis. We have a terrible police force that has been ineffective for a long time. We need change urgently. Yet, an immature understanding of the situation has seeped into a good friend of mine. Granted, they have always been selfish and sheltered. I think they believe officers only issue speeding tickets and harm people. That is their entire perspective. I don't mind if their proposed solution to the problem is to defund the entire department. I disagree, but I won't hate them for their view. To me, that is not the best solution and would worsen the overall issues in the city. I prefer extensive reform, but not the belief that eliminating all officers will improve the city. They seem to think that reform is not an option and that the police should not exist. I have always accepted that we have different solutions. I didn't like theirs, but why ruin a friendship? Their perspective is that I am now the enemy because I believe some form of police presence is necessary for the city to function. I also want to mention that I attended many protests, sheltered friends during the riots, and invested a lot of time and money into reform efforts. I absolutely believe our policing is a problem and still is. In summary, I lost a 25-year friendship because I wouldn't agree that all officers are bad and that police should never exist again. Story 25. Technically, though probably not in the way you're thinking, I had a very close friend growing up. We met as children and went to high school together. She came from a very conservative religious family and was generally a sweet and accepting person. It surprised me when she started supporting Donald Trump. We both knew we would never agree on that issue, so we decided not to discuss it. She claimed to only support him because she didn't like the alternative. My sister, who was also her friend, got into a big argument with her, calling her names, and things got really ugly. I guess it became awkward for everyone, and it was actually quite traumatic. I don't know about my ex, but we had a lot of political disagreements, and I have the feeling that is why he decided to cheat on me. Story 26. Yes, though not solely for that reason, there were other issues. It was around 2012, and the political divide was not as sharp as it is now. Now, I need to know that we are aligned to a significant degree if I am considering a new friendship. I dislike that it has come to this point. For me, you are either on the side of humanity or you are not. I do not believe either of us would have much,